you need to be able to create lists inside of a HTML document, but there's other reasons that lists might pop up, especially if you're using Bootstrap. So knowing how to use a list is important. There are two types of lists. There are unordered lists where you just have bullets, and then there's an ordered list where it has an order in which it is listed. And so to create this in HTML and CSS, I'm going to go ahead and go into CodePen and create a new pen called lists. I'm going to go ahead and minimize my JavaScript and expand open my coding area. So first, we're going to focus on what an unordered list looks like. First, you have to tell the computer, hey, I'm making a list, and then here's each item in the list. So when you're making the list, you either first need to say, I'm making an ordered list or an unordered list, so it knows if it needs to number it or bullet it. So if you're going to make an unordered list with bullets, you're going to use the tag UL for unordered list. And then you're going to go ahead and close it. Now, I suggest you hit enter and close it just because we're going to then list out the items that would each go on each bullet, each list item, and that's going to sit inside of the unordered list. I'm then going to go ahead and in between the tags, hit enter. And since it's tabbed inward, I know that these are all part of the list items. And I'm just going to use LI to say I'm creating a list item, and you're going to say first item and then close LI. You'll see that when you do that, the bullet appears for first item, and you now have a first item list item. If you want a second one, you would create another LI for list item and go ahead and put that in there. This is the same for third, fourth, etc. And as long as everything is inside of that UL tag, it's going to sit within the list and have the same formatting. Same thing happens for an ordered list. So this is where you're going to go ahead and use an OL tag instead of a UL tag to tell the computer that this has an order to it, and we'll be using something like numbers to showcase the order. So you do an OL and you go ahead and create a list item again, this being the first item, and close the LI. You can see at this point that by automatic, and I think this is important for each list item, it's going to break to the next line, and the computer is going to automatically number these in order if they are all within the same OL tag. So this is how you can create basic list items. The question is then, how do you make them look different? Well, when you're working with list items and you're trying to go ahead and customize them, you can call upon the list items inside of the CSS just like you would anything else. So if I want everything in the unordered list to look different, what tag would I call upon? I'd call upon the UL because then it would apply everything to everything inside of the UL, which is all the list items. So down in the CSS, I can call upon the UL and then stylize it with like a list style type and change that to be, let's say, a square. And that will change my bullets to squares instead of circles. The other default ones would be like a disk, which is kind of like a bullet, and that's the default setting that we saw. We could also try circle to see how that is slightly different. And you can see that it's not a filled in circle, it's just an outline of a circle. And if you don't want anything to show for the bullets, you just want it to automatically list so that it breaks to the next line for each one and keeps the structure, you can do none to show no stylization for that. For the ordered list, you can call upon it as well and stylize it with the list style item, or list style type, sorry. And by default, it's listing with a 1, 2, 3, but you can go ahead and do like A, and it should go ahead and change it to ABC. Now, mine is not changing because the type attribute is kind of a fascinating attribute with the ordered list. So what we would think would work here for list style type, it actually is not a CSS feature. It's going to be inside the HTML. And this is going to be a type attribute inside the OL tag saying A to change this to be an ABC. So it's funny how list style type works for an unordered list, but not necessarily an ordered list. Instead, you're going to need to use an attribute in the tag. We could also change this to be a couple different other options, like a lowercase a, which would give me a lowercase ABC. I could do a Roman numeral of a capital I, which would then do Roman numbers. And if I did a lowercase I, it would do the same thing for Roman numbers lowercase. But that's all inside that attribute for the ordered list. The next thing we're going to do is talk about how we can really customize this to not just use the default settings of the HTML and CSS, but how to actually get our own features in here. So go ahead and save this so we can do that.